SpongeBob needs no introduction, coming in various variants, from Parched Bob to Extra Freaky Bob. There's a kind of Bob for everyone to enjoy, from infants to adults. But we'll be talking about something that isn't really cared about or mentioned a lot within SpongeBob, its public transport infrastructure. First off, let me introduce you to the riders of the system. I introduce to you the Bikini Bottomites, a tough bunch who have endured horrors from the death of SpongeBob to gas poisoning, the Great Fire of Bikini Bottom, which ravaged the city to a great extent, and even a devastating war. You can truly admire the perseverance the residents have to keep staying and living here, really. The city probably has had to have rebuilding multiple times, I assume. Must have cost a lot of money. And the Bikini Bottomites are here after all those troubles. And speaking of the great city of Bikini Bottom, how about we take a better look at the city? Because to understand a transit system, you have to understand the city and its people. Or whatever the heck these are. We do know some things about Bikini Bottom. Firstly, that it is located somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. For my American viewers, that's the ocean west of California. And secondly, that it has a population of around 50,000 according to fan sources, given things that have happened in episodes. That's comparable to the size of Hereford. Also, you have the Hereford cow, which is pretty cool. That's why I had to put Hereford in there. But anyways, 50,000 allows for a small commuter rail line, possibly, and a moderate bus service, maybe going out to other areas of the region and not just the city itself. So let's see if Bikini Bottom punches up to that standard. Make sure to subscribe, join the Discord to meet other people who are just like you, and follow my Instagram for awesome infrastructure photography. Thank you. Despite 50,000 being a sizable population, there's one thing that could make it or break it. Transform it from an absolute desert of a settlement to a thriving community. And that one thing is density. To put it in a straightforward manner, density is the art of however many people you can place in a limited amount of space. That was an unintentional rhyme, but I do it all the time. Anyways, yeah, you could build 3 houses in a single area, or you could build an apartment building, and that affects the cost and availability of services. This couldn't be more true for public transportation. For example, you run a bus line through a dense neighborhood or a suburban neighborhood, the operating cost is likely to be very similar because, nonetheless, it's the same bus on the same road. But if you're in a non-dense area, the cost to performance ratio is quite low because there aren't many people in the area, which means less revenue and thus a typical municipality cutting service. And before you people come into the comments telling me that public transportation is a service and doesn't have to make money, yes, I get it. But you know who doesn't get it? The municipalities. They look at the numbers. Sorry. It's just the hard truth. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. We'll have to work with it. For good service, you will need about the density of a row home neighborhood. And Bikini Bottom hits the nail on the head perfectly. Aside from the day-to-day chaos happening in the picture, you can observe the fine row homes behind the chaos. Neatly organized, made from the finest scrap metal in the ocean. You can tell that they resemble row homes quite well. You can see that the row homes aren't only used for residency as private family units, they're also used for businesses. This gives us a better picture of Bikini Bottom's urbanism. You can see that the streets are quite dense and could be lively. The neighborhood punches in comparison to some neighborhoods on the US East Coast and some other small European cities. Overall, I'd give this a solid 7 out of 10. And now that we've overviewed the recipe they have prepared, the foundation set down to make a great public transportation system, let's see what they've done. From the get-go, I did know that Bikini Bottom had some sort of bus service, as there is the famous image of SpongeBob stuck in Baltimore. But the question is, what kind of bus did he miss? Let's take a closer look at the bus model and its various intricacies. Starting off, looking at the front mask, we can make a couple details known. Firstly, that the seat is right-handed. It seems like a right-hand drive bus, and it appears to be made of clad red metal. Everything seems to be fine from the first picture, but the more episodes you watch and the different appearances of the bus you see, you start to ask a lot of questions, and I noticed a lot of different details when doing research for this video. But before I get to that, let's look at some more appearance features that could help us determine the type of bus. In this image, I noticed some interesting things. Firstly, the Fulbrights are definitely capable of illuminating through the bottom of the sea, and secondly, the interesting 3-axle setup. Most city buses do not have a 3-axle setup, let alone one of that length. 3 axles are typically seen in larger coaches. Aside from the questionable situation on the left of your screen and the bus driver humiliating Patrick and SpongeBob, we can notice some other things. Firstly, the door is quite the peculiar shape, but most importantly, notice that the wheel is left-hand drive. The last image, it was right-hand drive. What's going on? I don't know, but it seems that the animators are not consistent with the bus details. But after much thinking, I came up with a theory that Bikini Bottom got new buses at some point. You can see that the windows line up on these 2 photos, but in other ones, they don't. Notice how the windows here are in line, organized, and a lot cleaner. You can really see the change in design. There is some controversy about the color difference, because people speculate that it's the same bus, but my new speculation says that they are different buses. Just look at this side by side. But oh boy, does the rabbit hole get deeper, because I saw this route display and I thought, how cool, they have route displays just like in real life, but then I remembered the normal photos and the route display was not anywhere to be seen. Looking at some other details, the bus appears to be stick shift, and they have a payment system, but it is just a standard box. No smart payment systems or cards in Bikini Bottom. Since the Bikini Bottom dollar is the standardized unit of currency, we'll assume that they use that. On the interior, you can see a nice wood parquet with horizontal seating, and ignoring the baked SpongeBob, we can see that it has a bar with grab handles. For some final details, we can also notice that the bus is high floor and that the door opens like a hinge-style door, something you don't see in most buses. Do you notice that sign, Jellyfish Fields? What is that? Where is it? And why does the bus go there? Next up, the system. This is the bus map in Bikini Bottom, and we can notice a few things first. We can see the place where SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick live. We can see Glove World, which is the amusement park and part of the famous Rock Bottom episode, and Krusty Krab and Chum Bucket, just to name a few significant areas that you might know of, whether or not you watched SpongeBob. Let's start with the scenic route. The reason why the scenic route is interesting is because it's the only out-of-city route that's really on the actual Bikini Bottom system map. And look at that frequency, every 20 minutes. That's quite solid if you ask me, especially for a route that goes out of the city into a different region. Now let's follow the route. We can notice that there is a bit of interconnectivity between routes. That's very good, as it increases accessibility for the network. So the first stop is Jellyfish Fields, quite a scenic area with, of course, lots of jellyfish. Next up is Conch Street. This is the famous location of where the 3 houses are, with SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick living in them respectively. I was extremely pleased with the planning of the welcoming station, as it is a hub for intercity buses and all the local transport, which means that if tourists get off at the bus station, they can then take 4 different bus routes to anywhere in the city with ease. This allows for a good impression for tourists and great accessibility for those who are most likely tired and worn out after a long day of traveling, it also really helps with the ease of access. Now, though, is the mysterious region of Rock Bottom, a place so strange that they have a different dialect despite being right next to Bikini Bottom. As you can see, Rock Bottom sits in a very deep trench, and the only way to access Rock Bottom by road is by traveling 90 degrees, which the bus does. Rock Bottom actually has some transport infrastructure of their own, hosting a bus stop. So they do have a somewhat small transport hub that contains things like bathrooms and vending machines. After that, the scenic route, of course, is a scenic route, so it ventures into the kelp forest, and then after that, it heads over to Dutchman's Cove. From there, it travels along the coastline and stops at Coral Stop, which is a great place to relax, with easy access to Mussel Beach and Krusty Krab. After that, it goes back to Jellyfish Fields, which means that the scenic route is a loop route. It makes a great radial line with various connections for general network access no matter where you live. Now, the express bus route absolutely blew me away with 24 365 coverage and a frequency of every 3 minutes. If it has that amount of capacity, I assume the demand is high. I would suggest that Bikini Bottom replace the express route with some sort of form of rapid transit. Anyways, let's start off at Jellyfish Fields and see how express this route actually is. Is it because of the frequency or because it skips stops? After Jellyfish Fields, it goes over to Conch Street and the Welcome Station. As of now, it seems just about as local as the other line we reviewed, but let's see more. The real thing is, though, there isn't much else to see. It looks to be a connecting route that goes from the Restaurant Row stop to the Welcome Station. But it is a very effective route, as it works as a high-speed connector. You can see that its job is to make the system a lot more whole by connecting the ends of all the lines to sort of create a bridge. And high frequency is exactly what you need from a transport philosophy, because the connecting rides aren't counted as rides with real midway stops, it's just people wanting to get from one line to another. So that high frequency will really help the convenience and connectivity of the system. And I know a lot of you people know this, but this is for the people who are watching that don't know much about transport planning. And if you don't know much, hey, welcome aboard. Funny thing is, yeah, I don't know much as well, so we're on the same boat. Next up is a really unique line, the indirect line, which travels once a day, 3 days a week, during the afternoon. The situation that constituted such a line and its very strange schedule really puzzles me and makes me want to think more about the urban environment. If this is a reasonable choice by the transport company of Bikini Bottom, there is some explaining to do regarding the passenger demand. Do you agree with the Transport Authority of Bikini Bottom? Let me know. The first thing we can notice is that this line is carried by the express route, because there wouldn't be really any other access from any other line if that didn't exist. The express line also greatly adds to the connectivity of this indirect line, and once again it shows the importance of connector lines. This line is a shuttle service, which only goes one stop to downtown Bikini Bottom, specifically its own Anchor downtown stop. At its downtown terminus, it doesn't connect with any other line that goes to downtown, which is quite disappointing because downtowns always should be a great transport hub. The next line is the direct line, as opposed to, of course, the indirect line, and this is every hour on the 5th minute. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the frequency, but I guess we'll work with what we have. And it goes from Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, 7 a.m. to somewhere around 5 p.m. We have a solid start at the Welcome Station, once again with their great connections. We then go on to a stop serving Uptown and Glove World, which connects to another indirect service. In case you don't know the indirect service, it kind of works like the New York City subway shuttle services. And you can see here that there is a shuttle that can fork off from Glove World either to before you hit Rock Bottom or Kelp Forest, which is a great connection. A bit better than the last one, I must say. From there it meets the scenic line at Goo Lagoon and then at Mussel Beach, where the scenic and direct routes are kind of close to each other, which allows for great connectivity at Mussel Beach. And then you have a triple line interchange at the Coral Stop. The line terminates at Coral Stop, but it has a lot of potential for expansion, which could greatly increase the connectivity and frequency of the Bikini Bottom network. Last but not least is the Crosstown line, which comes every 17 minutes, but it appears to work from Sunday to Tuesday from a 10 to 10 basis, which is 12 hours. The schedule once again is not so great, but let's check out the coverage, as crosstown lines typically are extremely useful. We start off once again at the transport hub with the welcome station. This is a good and solid start as usual. After that, we go over to downtown Bikini Bottom. Once again, a great location from a transport hub. This is the only place from the transport hub that takes you to downtown Bikini Bottom, so this is obviously a very important stop. After that, it goes over to the restaurant row stop with Chum Bucket and Krusty Krabs. And over here we can actually see a little Easter egg, a private line to the bank from Krusty Krab, probably a shuttle service, but if it is on the transport map, I assume it may be paid for by the municipality. Very interesting lore. Last but not least, it heads over to the Coral stop, where 3 lines interchange. This is probably one of the other useful hubs in the system, and with that, we have concluded the entire exploration of the Bikini Bottom bus network. From a transport perspective, and looking at this map, the system coverage is excellent, along with the route planning. The routes are absolutely immaculate, and I'm very happy with them. The pitfall that makes this barely usable is the schedule. The schedule is just absolutely atrocious. If Bikini Bottom sorts their schedule out, then possibly this could be a 10 out of 10 bus system. Very well done, but still a lot of unused potential. Trains aren't really prevalent in SpongeBob, and I don't have much time left. It's been very long now. So let's speedrun. This is the interior of the Bikini Bottom station. It looks quite nice. You see a restaurant in the corner potentially, and some stairs leading up to the platform. I don't know what SpongeBob and Patrick are doing here. This is the exterior, and it looks quite nice. I really do love the thatched roof with the color combos. It uses a high platform and 1 track with a bypass. It is diesel powered, as you can see, with the lack of catenary. And there is a massive sign indicating that it is indeed Bikini Bottom Station. This service is the Oceanic Express. The locomotive kind of resembles early 20th century locomotives in my opinion, and the Oceanic Express goes out to Far Outville, which is all the way in the Atlantic, so this is of course a very, very long service. This is the Bikini Bottom Express. Not much is known about it, but the rolling stock looks immaculate. I love it. Just look at the side plaques on the wagon, and the locomotive resembles a really nice 19th century steam locomotive. And that's about all for the trains. Thank you all so much for watching this really long video. As usual, remember to follow the Discord, Instagram, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I try my best to read all the comments. I'm the Transit Diaries, and as always, stay tuned for more.